I don't have an agenda.
Neither do I.
Okay.
Oh my God. This kind of feels crazy that you're here.
I know.
Like in this way.
Yeah.
Like you're always here.
Always
you know
here.
what I mean? But I'm just like, it's like bringing multiple worlds together.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. Okay. It feels strange too not having Victoria. I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
It's swingers edition. No, that's what we were joking about. Also, me wearing all black with this sweater makes me look just like a full black
You need a little black kitty. You need Poppy
Poppy
on your shoulder.
Could you imagine perched on my shoulder? Okay.
Very cute.
Welcome to Frequency Broads.
Hello.
I'm Tara, and I'm here with my good friend Emma. She's filling in for Victoria today. And we kind of are just going to wing it today with what comes up. I know you had some thoughts, some questions. I feel like, let me give you the premise of why I invited Emma onto the podcast today. Every time Emma and I hang out, she will ask like one-off questions about the universe, about energetics. I feel that she's always been, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like pretty in tune, but maybe just like waking up to the consciousness of it. Like, oh, that's what I've been feeling all this time, or that's what I've been experiencing all this time. And since I've met Emma 2 years ago,
2.5 years,
2.5 years ago, every time I just throw like some crazy ass spiritual shit at her, like aliens and quantum field shit, she's like, I don't fully get it, but yeah. And I'm like, I know, like your cells are so activated, even if like your brain isn't computing like what is happening yet. So she always comes in with some great questions, and a way for me to channel is through conversation. So when Emma tends to ask certain questions, it kind of just floods out to me, and I'll get realizations as well. So we felt that this might be a really great episode to do during a really dense, energetic time, to just talk about from someone's perspective who hasn't been quote unquote tapped in like Victoria and I have been our whole life, how it's playing out for you or what questions you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm like a little baby soul.
You're a little but
baby.
You're not. Like you're like a little baby in this lifetime practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like old soul, because the memories are coming back to you like nothing.
Yeah, I feel like when we hang out, I have a lot of questions, but I have a really open mind. So when you say stuff, I'm like, I am not there, but like I like hearing it, because then when I do experience something that I haven't before, I can remember what you said. I'm like, oh, this kind of makes sense now. And if I didn't have an open mind, it wouldn't make sense to me.
Absolutely.
And then I would kind of close off that part of myself.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a lot of what this podcast, like we try to offer, is like, don't try to make logical sense of everything. Like if you're willing to just be open and hear what we have to say, then down the line, it's going to be those pings in you that go, oh shit, that's what that was. Oh, that's what this is trying to show me. That's what they meant by that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's always good validation for you as well to like get those little pings.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where to start.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So happy to have you. I bought these flowers for us today. You know, I love buying little flowers.
They're so cutie.
A little bouquet. I guess we'll start, as we do every podcast, with a little freak check of just like checking in with yourself. How are you feeling? What's like your vibe right now? You literally just walked into my house and then we stepped into the studio. So how are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel it's also the very beginning of the new year, which I think is really nice. And I'm feeling that new beginning. And it just had a new moon. I'm feeling very purified from the past year and very ready for the next year in a very deep way that I maybe haven't felt before, which is why I feel like this is perfect right now. But I think we both had some stuff last year, stuff. And
crazy.
I feel like I was looking yesterday at like, in my, do you remember when we did like a little jar for the fall.
Oh, the fall equinox?
Yeah, like clearing stuff out. And maybe a few weeks ago, maybe the beginning of December, I took all of that stuff and like cleared out this like little terrarium and put it all into a mason jar and kind of like put the lid on it. And I would, because I want to keep it because it was important, but I needed to like close it up and take all the stuff out. And I was looking at it the other day, and it's so it looked like gunky.
Ooh.
Like it looked like just dark and black and like kind of like rotten. And I looked at it and I was like, that was all like kind of in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it felt nice to look at that and be like, whoa, that's gone now. Because I really feel kind of like cleansed of everything from the past year.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling open and like I scooped some stuff out.
Scoop.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. And even having the intuitive, because like I don't think there was 3 others, including myself, who did the terrarium, and I don't think any of us cleaned it out that way. So even to have that intuitive hit and just to follow it instead of being like, oh, but it's pretty, or this was the like, nope, my gut is telling me to like take it out, jar it up, lock it up, close it down. Like, I'm grateful for you, thank you, but like we need to shut you down now in a most like blessed way. So that's really, I'm glad you feel that way. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Something I've been thinking a lot about is the new year. And, you know, a lot of people are understandably like, this is not the real new year. This is just the calendar we made up. Like the new year is the spring equinox, and people kind of feeling distant or like separate from New Year's Day that we have in the calendar. And I mean, that's how I've always felt. I definitely agree with it. But I also think it's a beautiful thing to recognize when the collective is so focused on setting an intention that it is like a portal opening. So like, yes, like cosmically or like sacred earth wise, it may not be the new year, but after years of the collective being like, this is the time that we set intentions, it is kind of creating that vortex of newness and rebirth. I do think it's more about reflection than like setting intentions fully. Like it's more about like, let me reflect so that way I know what intentions to set. And I think that's that clearing out, right? Like, so just thinking about a lot about that. And yeah, I'm feeling really good. I think the new moon and the shift in that also has just like put me in like a bit of a roller coaster emotionally the past couple of days. But in meditation today, they were just like, hey, with upgrades, especially in the collective, your emotions are going to be heightened. And like, it's no one else. It's nothing else but you. So like, stop trying to project, stop trying to find what's wrong outside of yourself. Like take the beat to be like, well, what is this saying about me? So that's been like a shift I've been working on for a really long time, but the turnover has been quicker. So like I was feeling uncomfortable and having these thoughts of like polarizing, like, oh God, I have to get rid of this. I have to change this. I have to. And then I was like, no, that's all external. What do I have to do internally? What is my soul asking for? So that turnover was kind of quick. And now I'm kind of sitting in the wake, because that was yesterday where I was like full bawling and coming out of that. So now it's like a bit of like peace. So I'm really excited. I have no idea what questions you're going to ask. I have no idea like where we're going to go. So I'm just excited that you're here, and I'm very grateful to have you in my life.
Thank you. Me too. One thing that you were saying that is something I've also been thinking about. It feels like it's not individual anymore in this. I mean, it never has been, but it feels like recently, even if people aren't aware of it, there is this like sense of reflection and like authenticity that's coming from people in a way that hasn't before. Like I was just talking to one of my friends like 2 days ago about so many people, this is kind of silly, but so many people this year were posting like year recaps. Yeah. Like way more than I've ever seen. And I was thinking about it and I was like, I think people are starting to reflect more in a way that isn't, I don't know. We've just had so many bad years, and not to say this one was any better, but it feels like people are kind of ready for the shift and like a little bit more hope and a little bit more like wanting to move on from things. Yeah. And in a way that's like true to themselves. And I don't know, making resolutions this year feels more like people are thinking, what do I actually want and how can I achieve it, rather than, you know, what is in right now or what's like a thing I should be doing on New Year's. It just feels like everything is a little more internally driven than before. At least I'm feeling that, and I know others around me are too, and that feels good, because if everyone's kind of on that, it could be a really good year. I don't know.
It's really interesting because, you know, I feel like the crazier the collective is experiencing things, like politically or like socially or whatever, it's usually, or what we've seen in the past, usually like dividing, right? Like separating us from one another. But I feel recently in this past year, the more and more trauma, it's really what it is, and like shit that we're going through has just made people, like you said, it is more individualized in the sense of collectiveness. So like it's less about like I need to pick a side and more about I need to take pride and like take ownership of what I want and what I'm doing. And then when we all do that, we're actually like tending to each other, because we all want peace and joy and bliss and love. And like, so when we're all tending to that in our own reality, then we're more likely to be leading a life of compassion and be leading a life of belonging and like community. And I really do agree with you in that shift in seeing people. And even those like those highlights of the year that you've been saying, it's less performative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's less like, here's the perfect picture of me. Here's the perfect sunset. And it's more like, here's this time I laughed so much. Here's this time that I like happened to capture a moment of like hugging or like seeing an animal or like, you know, whatever it is. And it just feels way more authentic. And another thing that I did this year in reflection was going through my pictures and like writing down the main moments, which I've seen like other people been doing, but it helped me get out of, because when people, especially, you know, when you move away, people are like, how are you? You haven't talked to them in a while. What's been new? The first thing you think about are all the changes and all the like things you, oh my God, like this happened at work. And like, then I did this and like all the hardships. So taking that moment of reflection and being like, well, what's the authentic highlights? Not like the Instagram highlights that like people are always posting, but what's like my actual authentic moments of joy?
Yeah. I love what you're saying too about tending to each other. And that's something I've been thinking a lot about too, with, I don't know, with what we were just talking about, but also why I'm going to go off on a tangent a little.
Go.
Okay. I think that recently, as I've been becoming more, I don't know, spiritual, in tune with myself, whatever, I've been like a little, when you're not around a lot of people that are spiritual, right? I have my like people like you and people I know that I are like, quote unquote, like safe people to talk about like kind of weird stuff with. And I have my friends that love me dearly and will always remain open to all the stuff I'm saying. But I can always feel this little like tense up of them. And I think that a turn off to spirituality for me in the past has been that I kind of thought it was this very individual practice that kind of puts you on this path of like, how do I want to say it? Like, you're so in tune with yourself that you kind of block everyone out. And I do think there's people that definitely kind of go in that way. And it's, even if they don't mean it to be, it is performative, and they're just, I don't know, not doing it in a way that is authentic. Or yeah. And I think as I'm kind of leaning into it more, I'm realizing that all of these practices really do have the point and purpose of making us all be in community with each other more. Like if you're coming at conversations from a place of groundedness and clarity and mindfulness and like actually seeking connection rather than like having your ego in the way and you're not even listening to other people. Like that's what kind of spirituality has allowed me to do recently. more like and more so, and that's what we all need more of. And I do wish people kind of saw that side of it, because it really is, the more you kind of, I don't know, have a clear head and know what your purpose is and know like the gifts that you can bring to the collective and the community around you, so you can tend to the people in your own life. That's how things happen. That's how change happens. That's how action and organization happens. And I don't know, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about how much more in community it's made me feel with other people. And I don't think there's a downside to that when you're doing it authentically. And
I'm glad that you're finding that, because you're right. It's not, I don't want to say it's not common, but usually when people step into, I can't think of a better word besides corporate spirituality. If that makes any sense. Like, and, you know, we've talked about it before, where it's like, you have to do this course in order to get to this course. And it's like, you know, once you hit this level, then you'll have the answers and can teach those below you. And it's like, that's not really how things work. And when you're stepping into that authentic spirituality, becoming a sovereign being, becoming like your own compass, you recognize that the universe does revolve around you. But if the universe revolves around you, it also revolves around that person and that person and that person. So it's this duality of, yes, everything in my life is a reflection of me. Everything has to do with me. Everything affects me. But also the person next to me is experiencing the same thing. And then we can start to understand how we can try to, or we become less attached to our reality being the right reality, our path being the right path, and saying like, this is what's right for me. And we're more open to hearing the perspectives of others, or just even allowing others to experience life the way that they choose to experience it. And, you know, it can be hard as a spiritual person or an energetic person when you can see how it's like affecting someone's energy, and you want to step in and be like, bro, that's not fucking good for you. But also, who the fuck am I to say anything's good for anyone? So it's that interesting, you know, duality that we hold as people stepping into spirituality, that we're all one, but we're all one, if that makes sense.
Ooh.
You know?
Little O, capital O, one and one. Yeah. I think it's also made me weirdly be able to disagree more, but in a compassionate place. Whereas before I was like, very, I don't know, didn't know what I thought about things, just like in kind of in general, but when it came to kind of bigger issues or whatever, and would kind of agree out of, I don't know, not wanting to offend anybody, or would, you know, I don't know, was it actually seeking this genuine connection between people? And now I'm like, I actually disagree with this point of view, but now I want to like mend that and talk to people more. And I'm like, I wish we could all do that. Because when you have that detachment, it's not about you being right. Right. And usually when we get into these, however big or small, like disagreements, it's both sides trying to prove that they're right. And when you step into this space of authenticity, it's not proving I'm right. I'm right. This is my truth. And I disagree with yours, but I still accept that it's your truth. And if it's something that I feel is damaging or harming others, and I want to maybe shed light on that for you, then it's more about finding the understanding as opposed to proving right. Like, you're trying to understand each other. And I feel like a lot of people lose that in arguments, where even in like the small bits of like, you know, relationship, whether it be friendship or romantic, like if I'm saying yes and you're saying no, it's not about me getting you to decide that yes is the right answer. It's about us trying to understand why you think no is the right answer, or why I think yes is the right answer, to offer perspective. And if that happens to shift your choice, great. And if not, then that's not the point at all. The point is to be seen and accepted in my truth just as much as you want to be seen and accepted in your truth. Yeah. I guess that's all to say. This past year, that's kind of what came up for me a lot. And I wish that for everybody, kind of like that place of compassion. And
it's a hard place to be in. And you have to have compassion for yourself before you can have compassion for anybody else.
But I feel like we're all kind of starting to shift that way a little bit, or at least the people around me.
Mhm.
It's just hard coming out of COVID in 2020. It's
Yeah.
like, how do you not just be like internally just like shut down and be your own one without thinking about the oneness of everything,
Yeah.
you know? So, and we were literally had to.
Yeah.
We were told by the government, you have to be
Yeah.
one. So I don't know. It feels good that I feel like we're kind of breaking out of that a little bit, and it feels good.
I think so too. I think it all boils down to perspective. Like, even if we're looking at, 2020, even though so many fucking things have happened in between now and then and continue to change, we were reflecting on it the other day and what quarantine really meant for us and like did for us. And, I can't speak for you, but I was lucky enough to have enough money to support myself and food and a safe place to live. And my family was healthy and like there wasn't any like fear around my immediate surroundings. But ultimately, I took that and was able to find myself in that time. And I feel like a lot of people did. And for whatever reason you believe we were fully locked down, whether it was strictly for the pandemic or was it for control or whatever the perspective was, the outcome of that is most people found their own value from that because they were separated from everything else. And I think that separation makes us want to swing completely the other way and find so much community. And I think there was a little bit of awkwardness over the past couple of years of how do we do that? Because we've never done it before. And then we were completely shut down and didn't even have the opportunity to try. But now I'm craving it. So I definitely see that we're swinging in that direction of not wanting to let, or at least the people in our sphere, right? Not wanting to let the fear of what's happening on a larger scale stop us from tending to ourselves in the community, because that's ultimately the goal, right? Is the more fear you're in, the less likely you're step out and to like help yourself and others. But if we can overcome that fear and just like step out and support ourselves and others, then it's a new game and we get to make the rules for it.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know. Should I open up my little question
I know.
box?
I'm like, open up your little Q&A,
I don't
girl.
remember. These were from a few weeks ago, so I have to see what.
Well, it would be interesting too as you're looking at them and being like, okay, not that one, right? Like how they resonated with you so much at that point to write it down, but maybe now you're like, no.
Ooh. Okay, hold on. I want to look through all of these.
I'm getting very excited.
Okay, I think I'm going to like word ramble, but I feel like you're really good at picking up the pieces and putting them into a coherent thought. Something that I'm working on this year, this will hopefully it will come full circle.
Okay.
But something I'm working on this year is my tendency to control everything. And I think that one downside, or not a downside, but something with becoming more spiritual or whatever that has come out of it for me is that now I'm like, I can control everything. You know, when you start to see things that like, you're like, things start to like kind of come true for you, or understandings you start to have, you can kind of go a little like overboard with it. And I think as someone who is a control freak, I'm starting to realize that I have to let go a little bit. And one thing I saw recently that helped a little bit was like, if you're planting a garden, you don't plant the seeds and then dig them up every day. Yeah. You just water it and let the light shine on it. And then you kind of just trust that it will in time kind of do what it needs to do. So one of the questions I had here was, when we, I guess it's not a question, but just like when we use spirituality as an avoidant tactic or a way to try and control things that we can't, when to release and to trust, and like how to do that. And then kind of along the same lines, like, does everything have a purpose? What's the downside of that belief? Like how to make sense of everything has a purpose versus I may not ever know. Just like kind of releasing control when it comes to I don't know. Is any of that making sense?
No, it makes total sense.
And that's what I've been thinking about a lot.
As someone who's also a control freak, love Capricorns, and, you know, struggles with OCD, it is challenging. It is fucking challenging. And spirituality can become an avoidant practice for sure, right? I don't want to feel this way. Let me, you know, deep breathe and get rid of it. I don't want to experience this. Let me try to manifest it or like get it away or, you know, whatever. And then what happens is we become kind of resentful towards ourselves. That's kind of a big word, but it really does kind of boil down to like kind of resentment towards ourselves when it doesn't happen, right? Like I should have done better. Maybe that's not true. Maybe I was wrong. My intuition's wrong, or I'm not strong enough, or I didn't do it right. And I think as humans who have an ego, it'll always be a control game. It'll always be challenging to not want to control things because we do have the power to control ultimately everything. What gives us the power to control is our ability to detach from the outcome. And I think I'm glad that you blended those two kind of thoughts or questions together about things having purpose, because how do I say this? Working in the energetic field or like the quantum field, everything has purpose, has meaning, has energy, has potentiality. So if you're trying to, let's keep it real simple. If you're trying to manifest and I feel like this is kind of like energy 101. So tell me if you need like more of an expansion on this, but let's say you're trying to manifest a love life and you're like, I was going to say money, but I was like,
hypothetically. Just in theory, right?
Just in theory. Just in theory. Let's say you're manifesting a partner. You can sit there and write down, this is what I'm looking for in a partner. This is the timeline I want the partner to be in. This is like what, and where the magic lies is, I feel like this almost doesn't make sense, but where the magic lies is when you forget about it. Because what you're doing is when you're trying to plant those seeds and like that was a great analogy, like digging up the seed, you're ripping the roots every time. So the second you keep looking, the second you're like, is it this one? Well, hold on, let me check my list. It's got to be this one. Well, nope. Okay, kick him out because that's not exactly, or kick her out because it's not exactly on my list. Every time you're ripping up the roots. So what we need to do is recognize that everything has a purpose. So if that next person comes in and you're vibing with them, but they're not meeting the list of your manifestations, there's a purpose for that. There's a purpose why they're not meeting those expectations. And it could be one of two things. This is the in-between before the person is supposed to come. And you're not just supposed to like, cool, I'll date them for a minute and then check, I did it, but like really learn something from it. Or I guess ultimately it boils down to, we get so caught up in humanness, even if we're not trying to be materialistic, right? I have to pay my rent, so I want to manifest more money. I want to be able to have this life, so I want to manifest this. I want to have someone to spend my life with, so I want to manifest like this type of person to be with. But what we need to be focusing on is the emotion in which that evokes, because that's going to alleviate disappointment and it's going to allow you to deepen and deepen into that manifestation until all of a sudden you wake up one day and you go, holy shit, I didn't even realize for the past month I've been living out exactly what I wrote down 5 months ago. So if it is a love life, a partner, it's not what qualities do I want that partner to have? It's what do I want to feel when I'm with that partner? And then trying to, if you feel the need to control, trying to control the environment to continue to foster that feeling. So that way we're attracting a partner that meets that feeling.
Because ultimately you're embodying all of that is because I feel like sometimes it's like energy and it's like you're embodying the thing that you want, and that's how you get it, right? Because that time that you are spending obsessing over things and like checking the roots and you're going out and gardening, it's like, well, why don't you go inside and like do the things you want to do? While you're checking on the roots, the roots are rooting.
The roots are rooting, girl.
The seeds are growing. They're doing their thing. You have to be doing your thing, or else when they grow, they can't grow if you're just out there checking on them all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're going to be too exhausted to actually tend to them when they do grow.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it all boils down to, like you said, embodiment and recognizing that whatever your heart is feeling, you're admitting that's what you're attracting. We're energetic magnetic beings. So if you're attracting, or if you're feeling longing, like, I just want this. I just want this. The universe is like, bet, we'll give you more things to want.
Mm-hmm.
Look, here's your best friend who just got married. God, doesn't that look good? Don't you feel wanting more?
Mm.
Oh, look at this like friendship that's flustering and like there's so much love there. Don't you want that too? So when we can actually embody that and say, okay, I am going to write down everything I want in a partner, because I am putting that out and saying, hey, quantum field, I'm throwing this out. You do your little particle thing until I'm in the reality that matches that. But I have to be in the reality. So if you feel the need to control, coming back to that word, then control yourself. You know what I mean? Like, do the stress management work so that way you are, like, think of all the things that person who loves you is going to give you, and start giving it to yourself so you feel that, and you're not, because that person will come along and you're not going to be ready for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just going to be like so anxious. Like, oh my God, well, do they love me? Oh my God, they're finally here. Am I doing everything right? Like, you know, it's coming back to the garden. Okay, fine, they grew. Am I overwatering you? Am I underwatering you? Like, instead of just listening to the relationship you have with the plants, with your garden, and saying like, oh, well, this plant needs more water and that one needs more light. And so embodying that for yourself, that's, if you have to feel like you're in control, try to do that. But when things are not going the way you want it to, recognize that everything does have purpose. And the more you resist the uncomfortable feelings, the more you resist the shitty situations, as opposed to just like brave in the storm, the less like you are to make to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And dragonfly girly, you were the one who told me dragonflies like sit and wait for the storm, right? To be over because their wings get too wet. Was that you who told me that?
Yeah. Well, okay. 2 things about that. One thing was dragonflies, like, they have a, I forgot what it's called because I'm not a biologist, but they have the like little baby larva phase, but they have like some kind of metamorphosis where they're not really like in a full cocoon. I'm like, I should fact check this, but I'll just keep going. They basically like burst into a little dragonfly, but yeah, their wings are wet. They're super, super vulnerable to the environment. They don't really have that in between stage. And so they're sitting there on the, like, they literally climb up from a leaf, like they pop out of their exoskeleton, and then they're just sitting there vulnerable and wet and just like sitting there. And when they're in that little like dragonfly baby stage, things are going to happen to them, but they just literally have to sit there and weather it until they're like the new exoskeleton hardens.
Yeah.
But that stage in between is like really hard.
Yeah. And I think that's all that like recognizing, like I always think of two animals and how they experience the rain, and figuring out how you need to experience the rain, right? Meaning like the turmoil in your life. The dragonfly, I'm pretty sure also as an adult, when their wings get wet, they can't fly like other things. So they sit and wait, and they just get soaked, and they have to wait for the storm to pass because they're not strong enough to fly through it. Versus, I believe it's the buffalo. I'm like, we really should be fact checking this. I don't know.
It's not a science podcast.
The buffalo, if there's a storm, they run towards the storm because they know if they run towards it and through it, they'll be on the other side much faster than if they wait for the storm to come, run over them, and then now they're just soaking wet sitting there, right? So when you're trying to feel control, maybe taking a moment and being like, do I need to be the buffalo or the dragonfly? Like, I really, really want this thing to happen, but do I need to like, does that mean I need to push through it? I need to take action for my manifestations, which we always need to do. Can't sit here and be like, I'm manifesting that I am a badass, fit Pilates babe, and then just like sit on the couch all day. Like, but also if you're manifesting that and like right now you have your period or you're sick or something, like when do you weather the storm and when do you storm through it? I think is another good way to look at control.
You sure as heck don't want to run away from the storm because it's just going to follow you.
Yes. And that's what most people do.
Yeah.
When most people are facing challenges, they try to avoid it and they run away. And it's like
the storm cloud keep going that way.
You're literally, no, it's always going to be there. And that just means you'll be wet for longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's gorgeous.
I'm a little dragonfly girly.
Aw. The other thing I was going to say, it's not super related, but kind of, is, did I tell you about the butterfly DNA?
Oh, yeah, but say it. Tell them.
So, again,
No, this is real. I know this.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot about, I feel like there's so many metaphors about becoming a butterfly, but I really love this thing that I just learned about when they're in the cocoon. That okay, this is where the specifics go a little crazy. I'm not really sure, but I know that when caterpillar goes in a cocoon, and while it's in that little phase of being like complete goop, while it's in the goop, it starts out as like caterpillar goop, and what happens is as it's starting to transform into a butterfly, you have these like cells or stem cells or whatever that are the new butterfly cells, or what's eventually going to become a butterfly. And it starts to infiltrate this goop. And the caterpillar sees those new butterfly cells as a foreign virus and begins to attack it. So it's literally attacking the new parts of itself and killing them. And eventually, because this is like what butterflies do, the butterfly cells just keep going until there's so many of them that it kind of overpowers the caterpillar, and the caterpillar recognizes it as, oh, this is not a foreign virus. This is who I am now. And eventually those are the cells that turn into the butterfly's wings and the eyes and all of the cells that become the butterfly. Were at first they were seen as a virus and as something to be a war with inside of that goop. And then eventually it obviously turns into a butterfly. And yeah, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot, because as you're kind of like, for lack of a better term, like upgrading yourself, literally. Or maybe that's the perfect term, but like you are going to not recognize thought patterns and behaviors that you're trying to have. Mm-hmm. Like the things you're trying to do that are different than how you've always done them are going to feel so unfamiliar to yourself until suddenly they're not. Yes. And then that's just how you are and who you are. But at first it's like, I don't know, whatever it is, like, you know, trying to get better at like conflict or speaking up for yourself or whatever it is, it's going to feel so foreign to you until you keep doing it over and over and over and over. And then boom, now that is the other things that you used to hold on to, the things that were comfortable and safe to you that were not necessarily healthy, those are going to be the things that feel foreign to you eventually. And
shitty.
And that's going to be kind of now you're a butterfly. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I really have been thinking about that a lot.
No, I love that analogy. And it makes me think of two things. One, like I was saying before, when we're starting to manifest things and we're like, oh, that didn't happen. Like I didn't do well enough. Like that's the fight back first, right? When those new actions are being taken, when you're trying to like upgrade or whatever, you start to like second guess yourself and be like, oh, well, was that true? Or that's your caterpillar DNA being like, get it, it's wrong. But if you keep persisting, if you keep being like, no, I am going to live this way. I am going to work intuitively. I am going to be authentic to myself. And then the second thing it reminds me of is motivation. As we're starting to change, as we're setting these resolutions, as we're getting into the new year, people are like waiting for the motivation, right? They're just like, I don't have the motivation to get up. I don't have the motivation to work out. I don't have the motivation to cook. I don't have the motivation to like do these kinds of things. And I hear you and I feel you and I know how difficult that is and how overbearing it could be when we don't have the motivation, but that's also chemically in our brain not how motivation works.
I don't really believe in motivation.
Motivation doesn't work. Motivation comes after we've already seen the result.
Yes.
And we want to continue to see the result. You have to have the willpower.
Mhm.
You have to have the drive. You have to have the want or need to be something different, to want something different, to act or respond differently. And then when you see that be successful, I went for a run yesterday.
Okay.
Girl,
That's crazy.
is that not crazy?
That is crazy.
You
That's
motivated
awesome.
me with your 1 mile a day.
Walking.
And I was like,
walking.
but I was like, well, then it was a combination.
Yeah.
And Andrew's, one of his goals is a 10-minute mile.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's blend those together.
Mm-hmm.
But that shit sucked in the pouring rain.
Yes.
I did not want to do it. It hurt like hell. But this morning, seeing the results of like my thighs being sore, I've been having a hip problem lately, and like that eased up just a little bit. And I'm like, now I want to go. Now I'm motivated to go again. After it was done and I saw like my time and I saw how it felt, and even like seeing those around me, like Andrew was like, damn, you ran? I was like, yeah. He was like, shit. And I'm like, there's the motivation. So I feel like those times where you're trying to manifest, when you're trying to upgrade, when you're trying to prepare resolutions or whatnot, or set goals, it has to be from a place of like actual desire. It has to come from your heart center. You working out because you want to have a summer bod, those are the people that don't go to the gym after January. You know what I mean?
That's not your desire. That's other people's desire, or your desire to be wanted by other people. It's not internal. It's like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
It's not authentic to you.
If you have the desire to work out because you're noticing how your body feels and you're like, oh, I want to feel in control of my body. I want to feel strong. Or, I'm starting to feel like, again, for me with I think I actually like tore a ligament, but we're going to pray that I don't.
It's eased up because it's like detached.
I don't know. But I'm like, that's why I want to work out. Not because I want to look a certain way, but because I want to feel strong. And I don't want to have these creaks at 32 already. You know what I mean? That's internally. There's my drive. Every other year when I was like, I want to look a certain way, I fell off so fast.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to feel bad at first. It is literally supposed to. Your body is, and your mind and spirit is fighting off all of that stuff. So it's going to feel bad. You have to find the will and just be like, I don't know. When I try and like get up earlier, things like that, I almost like turn my brain off and I just I'm just like, I'm not here. And I just let my feet kind of walk around.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I'm like, okay, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should like completely detach, but
I mean, you find whatever works for you.
Be in your body more. Yeah. And I don't know.
Like if that works for you, like I know this does not work for a lot of people, and maybe it's because of my past, and maybe it's not the healthiest. I get that. But a little bit, I am a huge, I agree that a little bit of shame goes a long way. And even to myself, as sad as that sounds. So, and it comes off so harsh when I talk to other people about it. But like Andrew, with him working night shifts for so long and like trying to fix his schedule, he's like, but you don't understand. I'm so tired. And I'm like, so what? So what? Get up anyway.
Well, it's like if you think of your life as this, if you want to make a change, if you think of it like a science experiment, nothing's going to change if you just keep doing what you've done. You're not going to literally wake up one day and it's going to be different. You have to try something different, and that thing might not work at first, but you have to
stick with it.
Have to stick with it and try it.
Yeah.
Or else, like I don't know. It seems so obvious, but it's so hard.
It is.
But it's like the change isn't going to happen until you change it, and it's gonna feel really bad at first because what's different to us feels uncomfortable, and we'd much rather do things that are uncomfortable and safe, or that are comfortable and safe, than be uncomfortable for a second, even if those habits aren't healthy for us. And that goes for behaviors and thought patterns and resolutions, like anything. It's just gonna feel bad.
And that's why I saw this thing recently that I love, and it talks about we shouldn't be trying to get out of our comfort zone. Like framing it that way seems really scary. What we should be doing is trying to push the barriers of our comfort zone. When we throw ourselves from the middle of our comfort zone all the way out of it, it may be too jarring for you to handle. It may make you just revert and lock into that comfort zone and even probably shrink it because you're like, I need safety. Versus you reaching the edge of your comfort zone and saying, I'm not going to step out of it. I'm going to push the walls. And I'm going to say, I'm going to do this a little bit more and do this a little bit more and do this a little bit more until my comfort zone is so much larger than what it once was. And I'm actually doing that thing where I threw myself out there. I'm already out there. And I didn't even realize because I've taken the steps to get there. So it's really just allowing yourself to feel a little uncomfortable. And that, again, comes back to the control. When you're sitting there and you're like, God, I want to have control. I want to have control. Say, okay, in order to have control, I have to feel uncomfortable with it not being the way I want it right now. And that in itself is control because you're saying, all right, I have control over myself. I have control over my perspective of it. I have control over my next step, even if what is happening right now is not what I had planned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, trust.
Trust.
It's really hard, though.
Every time Victoria and I say trust, we're like, ugh.
It's so hard, too, when you... I mean, I don't have OCD, but I know that I have kind of obsessive qualities that I think can get, like... heightened with spirituality because when you start to see stuff, you can make everything meaningful. I walk outside and I'm like, that bird just spoke to me internally. What does it mean? I'm looking up like, what does a raven mean? What does a squirrel mean? What does a rabbit mean? It's like if everything is meaningful all the time, it's too much.
Or the fact of if everything is meaningful, then everything is meaningless.
Exactly.
And the concept, that is true, right? Mm-hmm. That is true, that every little thing has meaning, which makes everything meaningless, which means the only things that have true meaning are the things that you give meaning to. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. And I step out and I'm like, that crow, well, like on my fucking run, the crow squawked at me. And instead of being like, what do crows mean? Because it caught my eye, I was like, what does that mean to me? Mm-hmm. And then that's how you start working your intuitive hits. And a crow does not mean watch your surroundings. But when I asked crow, what does that mean? The first thing I got was watch your surroundings. And I was like, okay, don't step in that puddle. Right? And I thought it was lighthearted. But then your girl is coming around the corner and this minivan stops at the stop sign and waits for me to get to the corner. And instead, because I was like, wait, and I wouldn't have even looked at it, I wouldn't have even paid attention if the crow didn't squawk and say, pay attention to your surroundings. And then I was like, that's weird. That's suspicious. And I turned into the park instead of going around. And the second I turned in, he left. Was it a coincidence? I don't know. Does it matter? No.
Exactly. It doesn't matter.
So I believe that, yes, like you going out and being like, that bird, like, oh my God. Like I told you when we started working together, like whatever catches your eye is a message for you, but don't Google the message.
No, going on a walk with me is terrible. I'm like, look at, there's so much to see. And I'm looking at all of it. But
Girl,
yeah, I'm looking it up. And I'm like, why am I looking it up? There's not language for it sometimes either.
No.
And I'm like, I'm not someone who has like words in my head. I have like an emotion or feelings or just like.
So let that be the compass, right? See the bird and being like, what do I feel? Mm-hmm. Oh, they're confirming. I usually take this kind of stuff as confirmation over anything, right? So like, I'll be like, la la la, going for a walk and being like, life is so beautiful. And then the bird's like, ah! I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah. It is beautiful. Or like, girl, we've been on a walk together. How many times do I stop you? I'm like, look at that leaf.
And I'm like, I know, look at that leaf. Going on a walk with us.
But it's so beautiful. It is beautiful. Like, we're not even sitting here being like, what does that leaf say to us? We're just like, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think I'm trying to do that more because I do think that it can get so...
It can.
It's so obsessive and but that's what it is. It's the trying to pick up the roots, pick up the seeds. And it's like, just let it all be. Let it be beautiful. Let it be growing. Let it be. And then it will be. Yeah. I don't know.
Because I think when people start spirituality, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but it's that transition from like the 3D, like victim mentality into like the 4D healing mentality of like, you need to continuously fix and upgrade. And like, that's your purpose, is to heal and find your, you know, your cosmic family and like heal your karmic ties. And for sure. Yeah. But also, and more importantly, we're here to be. And the second we get caught up, and I'm not even saying I used to be like this. I get in cycles of it too. Okay, what's my next development? What's my next download? What do I have to do next, guides? What do I have to do next, guides? And they're like, be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just be, and let everything else around you guide you.
Mm-hmm.
Use your internal compass to be like, even angel numbers or 1111, right? Like, people are like, oh, let me Google what that means. And I get caught up into it too sometimes. But most of the time it's just that those are your pinpoints. That bird squawking, the clock saying 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are your pinpoints of your guides giving you like a quick, like, hey, you're where you're supposed to be. Hey, whatever you're thinking about right now is true. Whatever you're feeling right now, follow. Like, that's all it is. And when we actually be, then we pick up on these little things, and we have a lot more control than when we're actually trying to figure it out and control things. Because we miss the squawk or 1, 2, 3, 4 on the clock. Rapping, throwing bars,
Doing a little bar down. Yeah, I think that's the theme this year. Is just letting go of control and letting things be.
Yeah,
whatever that is.
Yeah,
if it's a bad
pleasant
feeling,
or
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Because everything any of us have ever been through, we've gotten through.
Yeah.
And so we might as well just like let it.
And most people
go through us
feel like they haven't gotten through something within themselves. I'm not saying that you're in like a bad relationship, something happening externally, but when you feel like you haven't gotten through something, it's because you're not being within it.
Mm-hmm.
You're resisting it, therefore holding on to it tighter.
You're running away from the cloud.
And it's following you. Instead of just sitting in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
You're being like, damn, this is cold.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not, because the sun's out. And moving on.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of, what is your New Year's goal, resolution? What's your 2025 like theme?
Ooh, my theme. I had a word the other day. And I can't remember. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it'll come up. But I have some things that I want to do, more like daily practices. And it is all for the purpose of being able to sit with things more, because I hate being uncomfortable. And so I'm trying to journal, go on a walk, meditate, and stretch every day. Even if they're very small. Like, my walk is just a mile. It literally will take me 15-20 minutes. Journaling can just be a line in my journal. Meditating is just to be able to sit with emotions. But all of that is for the purpose of when I'm going through something uncomfortable, because I feel emotions so deeply, and I can spiral and get completely in my head so quickly to the point where I almost experience this paralysis. I'm like, I need things that are in my body, in my hands, in my feet, and in my like soul to just kind of ground myself.
Yeah.
But I'm doing that doesn't always feel good. So I haven't done it in the past. I'm like, well, it's one of those things where people say, well, have you tried stretching? Have you tried journaling? And you're like, ugh. You're like,
shut up. Fuck off.
Yeah. But it's like, I really want to see what that feels like and have those daily practices and to write 50 poems.
Oh,
because I would really love, I'm putting this into the universe. I would love to write a poetry book. And I've been wanting that for so many years. And I have now on my wall I have like 50. I did one of those, like a little like not a planner, but I kind of drew a visual for myself of 50 little dots, and I numbered them. And every time I write
like
a poem,
bullet journal kind of style.
Kind of, yeah. And when I write a poem that I like, I'm coloring it in. I'm at 3 so far.
So far this year, you already wrote 3?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Girl.
And it's all because when I write more and I have a clear head to get inspiration, creativity, because you cannot be creative when you have external stimuli all the time coming at you. All of those things are getting easier. If I go on a walk, I'm kind of meditating anyway.
I was just
I'm
about
getting
to say,
creativity. Like it's
like
all
that, all of those practices that you're trying to piece together, like can actually happen simultaneously.
exactly.
And that's a beautiful thing. Like walk can be meditative.
Mm-hmm.
You can then come up with things that you feel like you need to journal, and maybe you like voice to text it on your notes app.
Exactly.
And then when you make it halfway through your walk, you pause and take a couple stretches, or you stretch before or after your walk. Like all of those things can be done simultaneously. And once we start letting us sit in the uncomfortability of it, instead of being like, oh my God, this is so daunting, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it all. That's where spark of creation comes. And that's where creating and controlling your reality comes from.
Yeah. So just more creativity and actually putting things into practice. Because I talk a big talk. But
now we get to hold you accountable.
But now, yeah.
Catch us at the end of this 2025 where we're publishing her book.
My little poetry book. But yeah, that's I
love that.
My resolution. What's yours?
Mine is, and I mentioned this on another episode, about picking the most exciting choice.
Yeah.
So that is my resolution, or just my goal, is to, when faced with any minute choice, like even I woke up the other day and I'm still on break and I had nothing to do all day and Andrew was still asleep. And I was like, I can get up and watch TV. I can get up and go do my practice. I can fall back asleep, or I can lay in bed and read. Those are like some options that I have. And I was like, which one excites me more? And then I was like, I'm obsessed with Fourth Wing and rereading it. So I was like, it's going to be reading the book.
Yeah.
And then after that, when I felt done with it, actually a little bit into it, after a while, I was like, okay, I finished like a couple of chapters. And then I was like, let me ask myself that choice again. And I was like, still the book is the most exciting thing, until I got not bored of reading, but like done with reading. And I was like, that's no longer the exciting choice. And I feel like that has brought so much excitement to me. And also, this is kind of off topic, but something about it, I don't know, maybe it's not even related at all. But I realized that I also, as much as I claim to not play the tit for tat game when it comes to relationships or friendships, of being like, well, I did this, so you have to do that, right? Like I did the dishes, so you're going to take out the garbage, or like, which like I've been really harping on reciprocal relationships and like making sure everybody's doing their duties. But even though I was saying I wasn't keeping score, I've been keeping fucking score. And these past couple days, I decided like, I'm not going to keep score. And it makes me want to go do things for myself and do things for other people. And then in turn, I get so much appreciation because they see it as a gift. Even though before I never said like, well, I did this and you did that. The energy in it was different, and they recognize that. And now like I wake up and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll do this. Can you do that? And he's like, oh, I can't right now. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And then after he's like, wow, thank you so much for like doing all this. And like, what? And I'm like, holy shit, this is an unconditional love, right? This is not the tit for tat. So I think also a piece of that goal, like picking the most exciting choice. And then within that, like not keeping fucking score. Energetically, if it feels reciprocal, let it be that. I don't need to like tally the 3D reality stuff of how much I did versus how much you did, because not everything is a physical action. A lot of it is emotional and mental support, or just like tending to, that doesn't get tallied.
Well, that's you trusting too, because I do the same thing. Yeah. Where you do one thing and you expect the other. That's you digging up those seeds again. It's like, well, just trust that is going to get to them. And the next time they have an opportunity, you know, when they see that opportunity, they might do it back, because then that's a gift to you. Yeah. And they do. Yeah. When you stop. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even look at it that way, but you're 100% right. But you have to give people time. But and if after a amount of time they don't, then you know. But it's like, and I think control really boils down to lack of trust. Lack of trust in the people in your sphere, right? Like a lack of trust in yourself to show up. So maybe to combat the control, it's really trying to focus on trust.
And when someone breaks that trust, when they don't show up repeatedly and you're like, okay, this wasn't a one-time thing, it's a pattern. Then you can make the discernment and say, this isn't reciprocal. I'm going to exit. Right? Or within myself, trusting myself to show up. If I continuously not show up, this is not resonating right now. This goal isn't going to work for me. This manifestation isn't going to work for me. Because if I trust myself enough to show up and I'm not, then it's not for me right now. So maybe it's just trust is the other side of that.
Well, it's like what you were saying earlier. If you're getting, just with like keeping score in relationship, because I feel like so many people can relate to that. But if you are putting out the energy of anger or hurt or just kind of like this, score keeping energy, and you're like, I wish blank, the universe is going to give you back scorekeeping. So even when they're giving you something back, it's not a gift or out of love. It's out of the other person being either scared or feeling scarce themselves or feeling forced. And like they have to put up the other tally. But if you're gifting love to other people unconditionally, you're attracting that energy back. And then when you get it in a form that doesn't feel good because you're embodying that love and that like good feeling rather than this like scorekeeping, angry, fear-based place, then you're gonna notice that quicker. And be like, that doesn't resonate with me, and that has to shift. That has to change. Damn. Trust.
Fuck.
I'm like, trust. I think is that the word for the year? I hate trust, but it probably is.
I mean, it's the word for every fucking year, every day.
You're just gonna be and trust that it's all working.
God damn.
Hopefully.
No, it will.
It will.
Trust.
It will. Trust.
Well, is there anything else before we close out?
I don't think so. This has been lovely.
I'm so happy you came.
Me too.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We love you. And I will not see you next week, but Victoria will with a good friend of hers. So, bye.
Goodbye.